So I want you to just imagine this for a second. You are standing right in front of a massive, imposing university building. It's your very first day.
Oh, that is a terrifying feeling.
Right. It totally is. You look around, and there are, students buzzing absolutely everywhere. Some of them are already laughing together in these tight groups.
Yeah.
Some look entirely confident, just strolling across the quad like they already own the place.
Right.
And then, well, there is you. Your heart is pounding just a little bit faster than normal.
Absolutely.
The noise of the campus feels like a little too loud.
Yeah.
And your internal monologue is just racing, asking those terrifying, creeping questions like, what if nobody talks to me? What if I don't make a single friend? What if I just don't fit in here?
It is such a universally overwhelming sensation. I mean, everybody feels it. But the fascinating reality we are exploring today reveals a deeply comforting truth that validates exactly what you are feeling in that moment. The secret is that almost everyone else walking past you, even the ones who are, laughing out loud and looking incredibly bold, they are secretly just as nervous as you are.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah. They are all caught in the exact same shared illusion. It's this idea where everyone assumes everyone else already has it figured out.
And that shared illusion is exactly what we are going to break down today. We have a fantastic deep dive today based on excerpts from Mastering University Connections, a guide to social and academic success.
It's such a great source.
It really is. Our mission here is to extract the absolute best, most practical nuggets of insight from this research. We want to help you effortlessly decode the social and academic architecture of university life, or honestly, any new social environment right from day one.
Because navigating a new chapter, it shouldn't require you to constantly second-guess human behavior. I mean, the goal here is to cut through the noise,
Exactly.
To avoid that typical information overload that always comes with back-to-school advice and just focus on the psychological mechanisms of connection. We want to deliver those immediate aha moments that you can apply at the very second you walk through those doors.
Okay, let's unpack this by looking at how we transition from that overwhelming first-day anxiety into a state of, well, actual self-sabotage.
Right, because that's what happens.
Yeah, because what the research highlights is that the biggest mistake new students make isn't, saying the wrong thing. It is retreating completely into what is comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
People arrive, they sit down in a lecture hall quietly, and they immediately pull out their phones. They stare intently at a screen, probably just like scrolling back and forth between two apps without even reading anything. And they just wait.
Just waiting for something to happen.
Exactly. They wait for someone else to magically approach them and initiate a friendship.
Which, if we look at the psychology, is such a natural evolutionary defense mechanism. When human beings feel overwhelmed or out of place in a new environment, our instinct is to shrink our footprint.
Oh, totally. We just want to disappear.
Yeah, we try to look busy to avoid the vulnerability of looking alone. But the reality is stark. Friendship rarely comes to people who only wait. It comes to people who take small, deliberate actions.
Right.
The danger is that weeks can go by, and those students who stayed firmly in their comfort zone, behind the shield of their smartphones, they will genuinely wonder why they still feel so isolated.
It makes me think of trying to catch a taxi in a busy city.
Okay, I like that.
Sitting in a lecture hall, staring at your phone and secretly hoping for a friend. It's like sitting on your living room couch, staring at your front door, and waiting for a taxi to just magically crash through the drywall to pick you up.
That is quite the visual.
I mean, you can't expect a ride if you don't actually step out to the curb and raise your hand. You have to signal to the world that you are available.
That is a great starting point for a visual, but I would actually push that analogy even further. Because unlike a taxi, where you just wave your hand and the driver does the rest, making a friend requires a bit more agency once the car pulls up.
Oh, that's a fair point.
You actually have to open the door and introduce yourself. And what is so deeply relieving about the psychological shift demanded here is that it completely lowers the barrier to entry.
How so?
Well, you might be listening to this right now thinking, but I'm not a natural extrovert. I'm not the life of the party. The research is explicit here. You do not need a perfect personality.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right. You do not need to be the loudest in the room. You don't even need to be funny.
Which is huge. I think, like, so many of us assume that to make friends, We have to perform this tight 5-minute stand-up routine the moment we walk into a room.
Exactly. You are freed from the burden of performance. You only need one thing, and that's the willingness to take a microscopic action, the willingness to just, breach the silence.
And the research gives us the ultimate actionable takeaway for this. The simplest intervention imaginable. You walk into a room, you see an empty chair next to someone,
Yeah.
and instead of silently sliding into it, you just ask, hi, is this seat taken?
Yes.
That is it. That is stepping to the curb.
It's brilliantly effective because it's a completely low-stakes logistical question. You are asking about the chair, but subtextually what you are really doing is opening a conversational door.
Right, you're sending a signal.
Exactly. You are signaling, I am a safe, polite person who is open to interaction. And sociologically speaking, that entirely mundane phrase is the genesis of countless lifelong friendships.
Okay, I love the idea of just asking if a seat is taken. But honestly, if I do that and the person just looks up, says, no, go ahead, and then immediately looks back down at their phone.
The dreaded brush off.
Yes, I'm going to freeze. How do I transition from pure logistics to an actual conversation without being incredibly weird? What if I have absolutely nothing clever to say to follow it up?
What's fascinating here is how the mechanics of human nature completely sidestep the need for you to be clever. The workaround is actually rooted in ego.
Ego? Really?
Yeah, you do not need to impress the stranger. Why? Because psychologically, human beings absolutely love talking about themselves. It is our favorite subject.
That is so true.
Your only job in that fragile moment after you sit down is not to entertain them. Your job is simply to be genuinely curious about them.
That totally flips the pressure. I don't have to put on a show. I just have to prompt them. And the source actually outlines this highly practical, what I like to call unclever, toolkit of icebreakers.
I love that term.
It's shockingly basic. Things like, what's your name? Where are you from? What are you studying? And is this your first class today?
They seem almost aggressively basic, don't they? But they are incredibly effective precisely because they require very low cognitive load.
Right. Nobody wants a pop quiz.
Exactly. In a high-anxiety environment like the first week of university, people don't want to answer complex philosophical questions. They want comfortable, easy answers that they have rehearsed a million times.
It's exactly like a game of tennis. If you walk up to a stranger and try to serve a 100-mile-per-hour ace, like trying to open with some incredibly witty, complex observation or maybe a heavy political opinion, you're going to double fault.
A conversational double fault. That is a great way to put it.
Yeah. A double fault in a conversation is when you hit the ball so hard and so fast that the other person just stares at you, completely unable to return it because it was just way too intense for day one.
Right.
But these simple questions, they're just very gentle, easy to hit tennis balls. You lob it softly over the net with a, where are you from? And they can effortlessly tap it back with, I'm from Chicago. All you have to do to keep the friendly rally going is listen carefully, smile naturally, and softly hit it back with a follow-up like, oh, I've never been. Do you like it there?
That is exactly how the mechanism works. You are just keeping the conversational ball in play. And this is how real sustainable relationships begin. Not with, cinematic fireworks, but with simple, comfortable exchanges of foundational information.
It establishes a baseline of safety.
Exactly. It makes the other person feel safe.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let's say you successfully hit the tennis ball back and forth. You have a nice, comfortable 5-minute conversation before the professor starts talking.
A solid win.
Right. But
Yeah.
the research points out a massive misconception we have about how that single pleasant conversation magically transforms into a deep, lasting friendship. I think we are all culturally conditioned to believe in the meet cute, right?
Oh, the Hollywood meet cute.
Yes. Like in every movie.
Yeah.
You drop your books, someone helps you pick them up, your eyes meet, you have one unbelievably profound conversation about your hopes and dreams, and boom, you are best friends forever.
It is such a pervasive myth, and honestly, it does a lot of damage because it sets an impossible expectation.
It really does.
If you don't feel a magical, instant spark with someone, you assume there is no potential for friendship. But the psychological reality is totally different. Friendship is not built through one single intense conversation. It is built through the mechanism of repeated contact.
Repeated contact.
Yes. In social psychology, this leans heavily into the mere exposure effect. People simply become closer to and more fond of individuals they spend time with consistently.
So the secret formula is frequency over intensity.
Precisely. It is all about accumulation. The more small, positive, safe moments you share with someone, the stronger the underlying bond becomes.
That makes a lot of sense.
So when you meet someone interesting using those easy tennis ball questions, the goal isn't to become their best friend that day. The goal is just to engineer repeated contact. Sit near them again the next time the class meets.
Give them a nod.
Right, a nod. Eventually ask if they want to grab a coffee or just walk to the next building together.
That takes so much pressure off that initial meeting. I don't have to seal the deal and become blood brothers on Tuesday. I just have to comfortably sit next to them again on Thursday.
Exactly.
But what if we want to speed that up? If frequency and repeated contact are the secret, how do we practically engineer that into a busy schedule without seeming overly eager or, frankly, a little stalkerish?
That is exactly where structured environments come into play. The research strongly advocates for joining clubs, sports teams, student organizations, or volunteering groups.
Joining clubs.
Yes, and if we look at the underlying so what of that advice, like why are clubs the ultimate life hack for making friends? It is because they manufacture repeated contact organically.
Right, you don't even have to plan it.
Exactly. You don't have to awkwardly ask someone to hang out every week. The schedule dictates that you will see them every Tuesday at 7 p.m. regardless.
You are sharing a context without having to force it.
Exactly. Shared activities create shared experiences, and shared experiences are the absolute bedrock of friendship. Many lifelong bonds happen simply because two people decided to join the same campus radio station or intramural volleyball team on the exact same day.
They just have an immediate built-in reason to talk.
Yes.
But here comes the friction again. Because joining a completely new club, physically walking into a room full of strangers where they might already know each other, or trying out for a team, that requires a massive amount of confidence.
It really does.
I know there's a listener sitting there right now thinking, I will definitely join that debate club or that hiking group just as soon as I feel a little more confident. Maybe next semester when I've settled in.
This raises an important question about human behavior, and the research addresses it with what might be the most profound psychological insight we will discuss today. Do not wait until you feel confident to take action.
Wait, really?
Yes, because the reality is action must come first. Confidence almost always comes after action, not before it.
Wow. Okay, I need to pause on that because it's completely counterintuitive. Confidence comes after action, not before it.
It is the ultimate paradox. We treat confidence like it is the fuel we need to start the engine of our lives. We think, if I just gather enough confidence, then I can walk through that door.
Yeah, that's exactly how I've always thought about it.
But it's actually the exact opposite. Action is the fuel. Confidence is just the exhaust. Confidence is the byproduct of having survived the scary thing.
Oh, I love that.
If you wait to feel brave before you walk into that terrifying club meeting, you will be waiting in your dorm room forever. You have to take the action while your heart is pounding, while your hands are sweating. And the confidence will arrive later once your brain realizes that you didn't die and that the people were actually quite nice.
That is incredibly empowering. It means I don't have to fix my internal anxiety before I start participating in my own life. I just have to do it scared.
Exactly. Do it scared.
Okay, so we've decoded the social architecture with our peers. We use small actions. We ask simple, unclever questions. We rely on the slow accumulation of repeated contact. And we act before we feel ready.
You've got it.
But I want to pivot the conversation to the front of the room. Because if repeated contact works for peers, how do we apply this to what might be the absolute most intimidating people in the entire university ecosystem, the professors?
Ah, yes. The ultimate perceived power dynamic.
Right. And honestly, as a student, what does this all mean for me? Aren't professors totally unapproachable?
That is a very common fear.
Don't they only care about the absolute smartest kids in the room, the geniuses who always have their hands up with the perfect theoretical answers? I'm an average student. I really don't want to bother a brilliant academic with my basic questions. Do they even notice someone like me?
That is a deeply ingrained fear, but the research completely dismantles this myth. We project this intimidating aura onto professors, but we forget why they are there in the first place.
Why is that?
Most professors are researchers and educators who dedicate their lives to a very specific subject because they love it, and they actively enjoy helping students who show a genuine interest in that same subject.
Okay, that makes sense.
Furthermore, the psychological reality of teaching is that professors do not typically remember students just because they have the highest raw intellect.
Really. They don't just favor the straight-A geniuses.
No, because raw intellect isn't a relationship. They remember students who are engaged. They remember students who are respectful. They remember the students who are visibly curious and who make a consistent effort to understand the material. You absolutely do not need perfect grades to build a strong, meaningful academic relationship.
That completely flips the academic script.
Hmm.
It means the professor isn't sitting there looking for a peer to debate. They're looking for a student who is willing to learn.
Exactly.
But how do we actually show that without looking like a teacher's pet?
It comes down to establishing presence and showing proactive respect. For instance, the simple act of attending class regularly, physically being in the room, matters immensely.
Just showing up.
Yes, just showing up. It creates a baseline positive impression because it signals reliability. When a professor looks out at a sea of faces, the ones that are consistently there week after week, they register as dedicated. Then you layer on respectful participation.
Meaning you don't have to know everything.
Right, you just have to show curiosity.
And what about office hours? Because to me, walking into a professor's small, quiet office feels like walking into the lion's den.
It definitely feels that way, but think about the mechanism of office hours from the professor's perspective. They are required to sit in that room for a few hours a week, and very often no one shows up until the week before the final exam, usually in a total panic.
Oh, I've definitely been that panic student.
We all have. But if you visit office hours early in the semester when there is no crisis, you immediately stand out. You aren't there demanding a better grade. You are there to learn.
But what do I actually say? If I'm not in a panic about a failing grade, what's my excuse for being there?
Just like we had the low-stakes toolkit for talking to peers,
Yeah.
you use a low-stakes script for the professor. You don't need a groundbreaking new theory to justify walking through their door. You can simply say, hello, professor, I really enjoyed today's lecture, but I was hoping you could explain this one specific point a little further.
Could you explain this point a little further?
Wow.
Wow, that is the academic version of, is this C taken? It's another gentle tennis ball.
Exactly. It is a brilliant psychological tool. By saying you enjoyed the lecture, you are validating their hard work. And by asking them to explain a specific point, you are literally inviting them to do what they love doing most, teaching. You are giving them the floor.
And synthesizing this with what we learned about making friends, this simple 5-minute interaction in their office is the start of repeated contact with an authority figure.
Spot on.
Over time, that consistency, that proactive curiosity, and that baseline professionalism build real trust. It makes total sense why those qualities often matter far more to a professor than someone who just naturally gets an A but never speaks.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the return on investment for doing these seemingly small, initially uncomfortable things is massive. Because navigating university isn't just about learning subjects, it is fundamentally about learning people.
Which is really the hidden curriculum of the whole experience, isn't it?
It is the entire point. Those casual peers you make today by simply having the courage to ask if a seat is taken, fast forward 10 years and they become your business partners, your colleagues, and your industry mentors.
Wow, yeah?
And that intimidating professor you chat with during office hours, just to clarify a minor point, they become the person writing your recommendation letter for graduate school or making a phone call to help you secure your first major career opportunity. The relationships you build by taking small actions today will open doors tomorrow that no textbook ever could.
It's all incredibly connected. So to bring this all together for you listening, the ultimate takeaway from all this behavioral research is beautifully radically simple. You do not need to be perfect.
Nope.
You do not need to be the smartest person in the lecture hall, and you certainly do not need to be the loudest or the most confident person in the room. You just need to be open.
Just open.
Open to hitting a gentle tennis ball over the net, open to the slow magic of repeated contact, and open to people. Remember that every single best friend you have today was once a total stranger.
Every single one.
Every profound, successful relationship you will ever have begins with a deeply mundane hello. Your university journey, and frankly, any completely new, terrifying chapter in your life, begins the exact moment you decide to stop waiting for the taxi, step to the curb, and connect.
It really is the fundamental truth of human connection. And to leave you with a final thought to mull over, we talked about that incredible psychological insight that confidence comes after action, not before it. So thinking back to that image of you standing in front of that massive building, looking at everyone else who seems so brave, I want you to look at your own life right now, even completely outside of university or school. What is one meaningful connection or one massive opportunity that you are currently holding yourself back from simply because you are waiting to magically feel confident before you take action?